I never expected this ordinary journey through the forest to become the biggest adventure of my life. After hiking for hours, I noticed something unusual beneath a massive rock. It looked like someone had built a secret entrance using bamboo. Curiosity took over, and I slowly walked closer. The cave entrance was unlike anything I had ever seen. It blended perfectly with nature, making it almost invisible from a distance. Every step inside felt mysterious. The air was cool, the surroundings were silent, and the feeling of discovering a forgotten place was unforgettable. As I explored deeper, I realized this wasn't just a cave. It looked like a carefully crafted survival home hidden in the jungle. Bamboo walls, a natural platform, and clever construction made it feel like someone had spent months creating this incredible shelter. Questions filled my mind. Who built it? Why was it hidden here? Was someone still living inside? Every corner seemed to hide another mystery waiting to be uncovered. The deeper I went, the more amazed I became. This secret place proved that nature and human creativity can create something truly extraordinary. But this was only the beginning. What I discovered next completely changed my understanding of this mysterious cave. As I stepped farther into the hidden cave, I noticed strange symbols carved into the stone walls. They looked ancient, as if they had been there for hundreds of years. My flashlight revealed narrow tunnels leading in different directions, and each one seemed to hold another secret. The deeper I explored, the quieter everything became. I could hear nothing except the sound of dripping water echoing through the cave. Suddenly, I found a small wooden door built into the rock. It looked surprisingly new compared to everything around it. I slowly pushed the door open. Inside was a tiny hidden room filled with handmade tools, bamboo furniture, and supplies neatly arranged on shelves. Someone had definitely lived here, but there was no sign of anyone now. Then I spotted an old notebook lying on a wooden table. Its pages were worn, but the first sentence immediately caught my attention. If you are reading this, you have discovered a place that very few people have ever seen. My heart started racing. Who wrote this message? Why did they leave this mysterious shelter behind? Before I could read another page, I heard a strange noise coming from the tunnel behind me. It sounded like slow footsteps echoing through the darkness. I quickly turned around, but no one was there. Or so I thought. Just as I reached for my flashlight, a dark shadow appeared at the end of the tunnel. Who is hiding inside the cave? The shadow at the end of the tunnel stood completely still. My heartbeat grew louder with every second. I held my flashlight tightly and slowly walked forward. As the light reached the figure, it suddenly disappeared behind a wall of rock. I rushed after it, but the tunnel was empty. Confused, I noticed fresh footprints in the dust. Someone had definitely been there only moments before. The footprints led to a narrow passage hidden behind hanging vines. Taking a deep breath, I squeezed through the opening. On the other side was a breathtaking underground chamber glowing with natural light pouring through cracks in the ceiling. Crystal clear water flowed through the middle, and rare plants covered the cave floor. In the center of the chamber stood an ancient stone chest covered with mysterious carvings. It looked untouched for decades. Slowly, I lifted the heavy lid. Inside, I found old maps, handmade tools, and a sealed metal box with a message carved into it. The greatest secret is not the treasure, it's what protects it. Before I could open the box, the ground suddenly began to shake. Small rocks started falling from the ceiling, and a deep rumbling echoed through the cave. I grabbed the metal box and started running toward the exit. But as I reached the tunnel, a massive stone door slammed shut behind me. Now I was trapped inside the hidden cave. What is inside the mysterious metal box? And will I escape alive? The stone door crashed shut behind me with a thunderous boom. Dust filled the air, and the only light came from my flickering flashlight. There was no way back. My hands trembled as I looked at the mysterious metal box. It was cold, heavy, and covered with strange symbols. Taking a deep breath, I carefully broke the old seal. Inside wasn't gold or jewels. Instead, I found an ancient map, a compass unlike anything I had ever seen, and a handwritten letter. The letter read, "This cave is only the first gateway. Beyond the mountains lies a hidden valley that has remained untouched for centuries. Only the one carrying this compass can find the path." Before I could read more, the compass suddenly began spinning on its own. Then it stopped, pointing toward a crack in the cave wall that I hadn't noticed before. Curious, I pushed against the rocks. To my surprise, they slowly moved aside, revealing a narrow secret tunnel. I followed the glowing compass through the dark passage for what felt like hours. Finally, I saw sunlight ahead. As I stepped outside, I froze. In front of me was a breathtaking hidden valley filled with giant waterfalls, ancient stone ruins, and abandoned houses covered in vines. It looked like an entire civilization had vanished without a trace. But something else caught my attention. Fresh smoke was rising from one of the houses. Someone was still living here. I wasn't alone anymore. Who lives in the hidden valley? The thin trail of smoke rose slowly into the sky. I moved carefully toward the old wooden house, trying not to make a sound. Every step felt heavier as I wondered who could possibly be living in this forgotten valley. When I reached the front door, it creaked open by itself. Inside, the house was surprisingly clean. A fire burned gently in the fireplace. Fresh food sat on a wooden table, and a lantern glowed in the corner. Someone had been here only moments ago. Suddenly, an old voice spoke from behind me. I knew someone would find this place. Eventually, I turned around and saw an elderly man with a long gray beard. His eyes were calm, but they held the weight of countless years. He looked at the ancient compass in my hand and smiled. "So, you are the next guardian." Confused, I asked what he meant. The old man explained that the hidden valley protected a powerful secret passed down through generations. The compass didn't lead to treasure. It chose the next person worthy of protecting the valley from those who would destroy it. Before I could ask another question, a loud helicopter echoed across the mountains. The old man's face turned serious. "They're here." I rushed outside and looked into the sky. A black helicopter circled above the valley while several people in dark uniforms climbed down the cliffs with advanced equipment. They weren't explorers. They were searching for something. The old man handed me a small wooden key. "If they find the crystal chamber before you do, everything will be lost." The race had begun. What is the crystal chamber, and who are these mysterious hunters? The helicopter hovered above the valley, its blades roaring through the mountains. The men in black spread out quickly, scanning the ancient ruins with high-tech equipment. They knew exactly where they were going. The old guardian grabbed my arm. "There's no time. Follow me." We ran through a hidden trail behind the waterfall. The wooden key fit perfectly into a tiny lock carved into the rocks. With a loud rumble, a secret passage slowly opened. Inside, glowing blue crystals lit the walls like stars. The tunnel felt alive, and every step echoed through the silence. At the end of the passage stood an enormous crystal door. Strange symbols began glowing the moment I held up the ancient compass. The door slowly opened. Beyond it was the legendary crystal chamber. Thousands of giant crystals sparkled with incredible light. In the center of the chamber floated a mysterious crystal orb, glowing brighter than the sun. The old guardian whispered, "This orb protects the valley. If it falls into the wrong hands, the entire valley will disappear forever." Before I could respond, explosions echoed from the tunnel behind us. The hunters had found the secret entrance. Their leader stepped into the chamber, smiling confidently. "After searching for 20 years, the crystal orb is finally mine." He raised a strange device and aimed it at the glowing orb. Suddenly, the entire chamber began shaking. The crystals cracked, the walls trembled, and a deafening roar filled the cave. The guardian looked at me with fear. "Choose now. Save the orb, or save yourself. What decision will I make?" The crystal chamber shook violently. Cracks spread across the glowing walls, and pieces of crystal crashed to the ground. The hunters moved closer, determined to capture the crystal orb. I looked at the guardian, then at the orb. There was no time to think. I sprinted toward the glowing pedestal and grabbed the orb with both hands. The moment I touched it, a surge of energy rushed through my body. The entire chamber lit up with a brilliant blue light. The hunters stopped in their tracks. The leader shouted, "Take the orb, now!" They charged toward me, but before they could reach me, a powerful energy shield surrounded the orb. Every weapon and machine they carried suddenly stopped working. The guardian smiled. "The orb has accepted you." But the danger wasn't over. The leader pulled out a small remote and pressed a red button. Boom! A massive explosion rocked the cave. Huge boulders fell from the ceiling, blocking the main exit. The chamber was collapsing. The guardian pointed toward a narrow bridge suspended over a deep glowing chasm. "Go! The secret exit is on the other side." I ran as fast as I could. The bridge shook beneath my feet while the hunters chased me from behind. Halfway across, the bridge began to break apart. Wood snapped. Ropes tore loose. With one final leap, I jumped towards solid ground. Behind me, the bridge collapsed into the glowing abyss, taking several hunters with it. But the leader survived. Standing on the opposite cliff, he looked directly at me and smiled. "You may have escaped today, but this isn't over." He disappeared into the smoke, leaving one terrifying promise behind. I held the crystal orb tightly as I stepped out of the cave. Far beyond the mountains, I saw another ancient temple glowing on the horizon. The adventure had only just begun. What secrets are hidden inside the ancient temple? The ancient temple stood silently on the horizon, glowing beneath the setting sun. With the crystal orb safely in my backpack, I began the long journey across the mountains. As I reached the temple gates, I noticed they were covered with the same mysterious symbols that had appeared inside the cave. The crystal orb suddenly grew warm in my hands. Without warning, the massive stone doors slowly opened. Inside, the temple was unlike anything I had ever seen. Giant pillars stretched toward the ceiling, and walls were covered with paintings that told the story of an ancient civilization. In the center of the hall stood a circular platform with 7 empty crystal holders. The orb floated out of my hands and placed itself into one of the holders. A deep voice echoed through the temple. "One of 7 has returned." The floor began to shake. Hidden chambers opened all around me, revealing 6 glowing paths leading into complete darkness. The guardian's words suddenly came back to me. "The crystal orb is only one piece of a greater power." Before I could choose a path, I heard footsteps behind me. It wasn't the hunters. A young woman wearing an ancient cloak stepped out of the shadows. Around her neck hung another glowing crystal. She looked directly at me and said, "I've been waiting for the next guardian, but we're already too late." Confused, I asked, "Too late for what?" She pointed toward the ceiling. The entire temple started glowing red. Far away, a deafening roar echoed across the mountains. "The 6th guardian has fallen," she whispered. Suddenly, one of the 6 glowing paths collapsed into darkness. Only 5 remained. The countdown had begun. Who are the 7 guardians, and what happens if they all fail? The temple trembled as red light flooded every hallway. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the mysterious woman grabbed my arm. "We have to move. The Shadow King has awakened." I followed her down one of the remaining glowing paths. The tunnel was lined with giant statues of the 7 guardians, each holding a crystal. But one statue had completely shattered. "The 6th guardian," she whispered. "He gave his life trying to stop the darkness." At the end of the tunnel stood a massive circular chamber. In its center floated a glowing map of the world. Dark energy was spreading across it like a storm. Every place the darkness touched slowly disappeared. The woman placed her crystal beside mine. The map briefly pushed the darkness back, but only for a moment. Suddenly, a loud laugh echoed through the chamber. A black portal opened in the air. From it stepped the mysterious hunter leader, but he was no longer human. His eyes glowed red, and dark armor covered his body. He smiled. "You finally understand, don't you? I was never searching for the crystals. I was collecting them for my master." The chamber became ice cold. A gigantic shadow slowly rose inside the portal. 2 glowing red eyes opened in the darkness. The Shadow King had arrived. His voice shook the entire temple. "Bring me the 7th crystal, and I will spare your world." Before anyone could react, the Shadow King raised one hand. A blast of dark energy shattered the chamber floor. I lost my footing and fell into a bottomless abyss, still clutching the crystal orb. As I disappeared into the darkness, I saw one final thing. A brilliant golden crystal was glowing far below me. Could this be the legendary 7th crystal? I fell through the endless darkness, gripping the crystal orb with all my strength. Just before I hit the ground, the orb burst with brilliant blue light. Time seemed to stop. Instead of crashing onto solid rock, I landed gently on a glowing platform made entirely of golden crystal. Before me stood the legendary 7th crystal. Unlike the others, it wasn't floating. It was sealed inside an ancient altar surrounded by 7 stone guardians. Their eyes slowly opened the moment I stepped closer. A powerful voice echoed through the chamber. "Only the true guardian may awaken the final crystal." The crystal orb in my hand began to shine brighter than ever. As I placed it onto the the altar, the entire chamber exploded with golden light. One by one, the stone guardians knelt before me. The seventh crystal rose into the air. But at that exact moment, the Shadow King shattered the ceiling above. Darkness poured into the chamber like a storm. The Shadow King reached out with a giant shadow hand and roared, "The final crystal belongs to me." Without thinking, I grabbed the seventh crystal. The instant my fingers touched it, all 7 crystals awakened together. A massive beam of blue and gold energy shot into the sky, visible across the entire world. Ancient temples everywhere began to glow. The mysterious woman looked up in horror. "You've awakened the 7 guardians, but you've also revealed our location." Moments later, the ground outside shook with the sound of hundreds of approaching footsteps. The Shadow King's entire army had arrived. I looked at the glowing crystals in my hands and realized the final battle was about to begin. Can the 7 guardians stop the Shadow King and save the world? The mountains trembled as the Shadow King's army surrounded the ancient temple. Thousands of dark warriors marched through the valley, their glowing red eyes fixed on the 7 crystals. The mysterious woman looked at me. This is the moment the prophecy spoke of. She handed me an ancient sword hidden beneath the temple floor. The blade was forged from pure crystal, and the moment I touched it, the 7 crystals floated into the sky, forming a brilliant circle above us. A beam of light surrounded me. Suddenly, I wasn't alone. 6 glowing figures appeared beside me, the spirits of the original guardians. One of them stepped forward and said, "Our time has ended. Yours begins now." Their energy flowed into the crystal sword, making it shine brighter than the sun. The Shadow King laughed. "Even with their power, you cannot stop the darkness." He raised both hands, and a massive dragon made entirely of shadows burst from the sky. Its roar shook the earth. The dragon charged toward the temple. I raised the crystal sword just as the beast attacked. Boom! The collision sent a shockwave across the mountains. Light and darkness clashed, filling the sky with blinding energy. For a moment, it looked like the light was winning. Then, one of the 7 crystals suddenly cracked. A single fracture spread across its surface. The mysterious woman gasped. "No, if even one crystal breaks, the seal will collapse." The Shadow King smiled. "The end of your world has already begun." Dark clouds swallowed the sky as the cracked crystal started losing its light. I tightened my grip on the crystal sword. The final battle had only just begun. Will the 7 crystals survive, or will the Shadow King destroy them all? The cracked crystal grew dimmer with every passing second. Dark energy spread through the temple, and the Shadow King's laughter echoed across the mountains. The 6 guardian spirits looked at me one last time. "There is only one way to restore the seal," they said. I knew what they meant. The crystal sword wasn't just a weapon. It was the key to uniting all 7 crystals. Taking a deep breath, I raised the sword high above my head. The 7 crystals lifted into the sky, spinning faster and faster until they formed a brilliant circle of light. The Shadow King unleashed every ounce of his dark power, sending a massive wave of shadows crashing toward the temple. I closed my eyes and drove the crystal sword into the ancient altar. Boom! A blinding explosion of golden and blue light burst across the valley. The 7 crystals fused into one legendary crystal, the Heart of Light. Its power swept through the mountains like a sunrise. Every shadow warrior disappeared instantly. The Shadow Dragon dissolved into dust. The Shadow King tried to escape, but the Heart of Light surrounded him with a pillar of pure energy. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. With one final roar, the darkness shattered into millions of glowing particles that vanished into the sky. Silence returned. The storm clouds disappeared, birds filled the air, and sunlight illuminated the hidden valley once again. The guardian spirits smiled proudly. The prophecy is fulfilled. One by one, they faded into the light. The mysterious woman placed the Heart of Light back onto its ancient pedestal. The temple slowly sealed itself, protecting the crystals for future generations. As I left the valley, I looked back one last time. The cave entrance had vanished. It was as if the entire adventure had never happened. But in my pocket, I found one final gift, the ancient compass. Its needles suddenly moved again, pointing toward an unknown land beyond the sea. A new adventure was waiting.